Hi everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to give 2 minutes for other people to come on. We know that sometimes people run late, meetings do, so we want to give everyone the chance to hop on. So from now we'll go 2 minutes wait. Everyone, we're going to go ahead and start. My name is Katie, so I'm the partner manager here at AddShoppers, and we've had the privilege to work with Plum Group with a few mutual clients that we've had. So that's really how this topic came about, is that we were seeing this need for something in the B2B space around social strategy. So we came up with this topic from boring to scoring and how B2Bs can build brand trust using social media. So here's a brief agenda of what we're going to go over today. So Plum Group is really going to talk about why we need a B2B social strategy, and AddShoppers is really going to focus on how you can do that and what platforms and tools you can leverage to make that happen. So our presenters are Peter Messmer, so he is our Director of Growth here. Jean Ferreter, who is one of the solution specialists at Plum Group, who I've had the pleasure to work with, and Maria Delgado, who is with Commerce Blend. And Commerce Blend is a sister company to Plum Group, and they have some really great information to share about B2B space and social media. So Peter's going to talk a little bit about AddShoppers, and I want to encourage everyone that if you have questions as the presentation is going, to go ahead and type them up in the control panel there. We'll field them and then we'll answer them hopefully at the end of the webinar with plenty of time to spare.
Hey, thanks, Katie. So obviously, as most of you guys probably get asked, what do you do? So here at AddShoppers, our answer to that question is we essentially help anybody that sells online sell more. So we have a suite of marketing apps that helps increase your average revenue per visitor with various campaigns that help you capture more emails, increase social sharing, get people more engaged, and increase conversion rates. So you can see a couple of our clients there on the screen. Just you can see the logos there and a couple of fun pictures of our team over on the left. And I'll go ahead and let Maria introduce you guys to Commerce Blend.
Thank you so much, Peter, for introducing the audience to your brand and giving all of us a little background on how AddShoppers can provide value. On my side, I'm Maria Delgado, and today I'll be speaking on behalf of Commerce Blend, an online community of business owners, high-level executives, and digital influencers who are constantly looking for 3 things: practical and insightful resources to self-train themselves, guided training from experts and peers, and top vendors or tools to supply in-house gaps needed for being more competitive. As for today, we want to give you all the chance of being the first to have access to 2 of our latest resources created especially for those who register to this event. But before going into the details, I'd like to give my colleague, Jean Ferreter, the chance of introducing himself and the Plum Group. So Jean, if you will.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you, Katie and Peter. For those of you that are not familiar with the Plum Group, we are a full-service digital agency specializing in e-commerce development, data-driven user experience and design, and fully tailored marketing plans. We are platform agnostic, so we develop on Magento, Shopify Plus, BigCommerce Enterprise, Kibo, which was previously Market Live. And increasingly we get more and more B2B requests. And because of our long-standing relationship with AddShoppers, we felt that this was a very valuable webinar topic to be addressing as the convergence of social and B2B commerce has become almost irrepressible. So thank you for joining us today, and let's get started.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned before, just for the people attending this event, Commerce Blend will give early access to 2 of our ultimate resources: a social media plan template and a proven analytics social dashboard. You will find each resource's link on the chat window. And in regards to the social media plan template, this is a resource divided into 3 sections that cover the major areas you should consider while planning how to compete on social media. So if you're among those people who usually have a hard time when getting started on the planning phase before your competitors surprise you with the next hit on social, then definitely this template will help you to land ideas in a shorter amount of time. On the other hand, the Google Analytics Social Dashboard offered is a small guide containing a link to a pre-configured dashboard that we created with key social metrics and that you can import right away into your store's Google Analytics account. To sum up, the guide also contains step-by-step instructions and illustrations of a multi-channel funnel and a user's flow report that focuses on analyzing the value provided by social media to your business goals, as well as the behavior taken by those web visitors that you attract to your website using social media. So remember, go to the chat window and grab the link of the resource that interests you the most, or even both, why not? Now, without further ado, let's start with this webinar by discussing why you need a B2B social life. And for this, I'll hand off to Jean once more.
Thanks, Maria. And perhaps everyone should mute just so we get a little clearer audio at this point. So it is the first big question, why do you need a B2B social life? And to address that, for starters, we are really in a renaissance period with B2B growth at this point. In fact, if you go to the next slide, you can see that the Forrester is projecting that by 2020 we'll have over $1.1 trillion dollar market for B2B. And this, if you can go on to the next slide, has been the result of steady annual growth of over 9%, and B2B is taking more and more of a slice of the overall e-commerce pie. So it's irrepressible growth at this point, and as we go into the next slide to delve into a little bit more, B2B has really a continuum, and it's important for any business owner to consider where are you in the B2C to B2B continuum, and where could your business be positioned in the coming few years. A lot of companies consider themselves pure B2C at one extreme or pure B2B at the other, but a lot are on the spectrum in between, a B2C business that wants to integrate a B2B component, or a B2B business that wants to integrate some B2C experience and features in their offering. So as we move along to the next slide, an example of a B2C business that has a B2B component would be one that is offering wholesale pricing, say bulk discounts for ordering in quantity. This is traditionally a B2B function, but by offering this in a B2C context, you have a component that can help to expand your business and garner some of your best customers. Another example of B2B or a B2C business, Ethan Allen is high-end furniture provider that's mostly B2C, but they have created a guided experience for interior designers on their site, because interior designers are among their best customers, even though they are traditionally part of the B2B space. So creating an experience within your site for B2B customers is another way to start to blend some B2B and take advantage of this growth. Another example is, say, for a restaurant owner, you think of restaurants as being a B2C type business, but a lot of times a restaurant will rent out a room to a corporation, or big tables for reservations or catered events. So in a B2C typical scenario, a lot of the best customers are actually B2B. And then yet another example is, say, for a sports franchise, you think of it B2C, filling the seats, but a lot of times you have corporate boxes or corporate events, and a lot of times a business of this scale will make their margins through corporate sponsorship and corporate events. It's not just through the B2C customers. So this is a good cross-section of businesses that have a blend between B2B and B2C. And because social has become so pervasive at this point, 75% of all B2B buyers are actually searching for their vendors first on social media. And so it's very important for us to begin to understand what are the behaviors of these B2B buyers. And for that segment, I'm going to pass the reins back to Maria.
Thank you, Jean, for sharing with us and the audience the reasoning that nowadays will make online business owners to rethink how much of B2B do they have on their brand's DNA. So to supplement what you just said, I'll now share with the audience information about behaviors taken by most B2B buyers on social media. So if you look at the graph on the right, you'll notice that those industries within the B2B arena with the biggest audience size on social media are professional services and computer hardware. These two next to other industries such as software, financial, and pharmaceuticals might easily have beyond 500K followers across their social media accounts. However, what is interesting about this information is that the data breakdown suggests a correlation between the type of market a brand is trying to target, mass versus niche, and the social network it chooses as the predominant. For example, niche-focused industries such as pharmaceuticals, medical, engineering, motor vehicle, biotech, chemicals, and energy are more likely to have a bigger social audience on LinkedIn than any other social network, as the engagement and communication on that network tends to be more one-on-one. On the other side, mass-focused industries such as computer hardware are more likely to have a bigger audience on networks such as Facebook. Nevertheless, as the world is not always black or white, but there's always some gray in between, there are B2B industries to which having a strong presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, and even Twitter might be highly relevant, such as professional services, financial, and software. The differences for these, at least in terms of content syndication, will likely be on the formats more suited to the audience on each network. As well, this new graph that illustrates the relation between audience size, follower growth during last year, and engagement ratio tell us that not necessarily bigger means better. The reason why I'm saying this is because those industries with the biggest audience size were not necessarily the ones that showed the major follower growth, nor the highest engagement ratio, contrary to what happened on niche industries such as engineering, biotech, or machinery. Other interesting cases were, again, financial services, as well as aerospace and defense and chemical manufacturers, as they showed a performance above average when it comes to follower growth and engagement ratio. Logistics and shipping also shows potential, but still needs to find better ways of attracting and engaging buyers through social media, as they're right in the middle of the quadrant. So in conclusion, the best opportunities for social media strategy are on niches. And now you might ask yourselves, what is the context from where these social opportunities arise? Well, the answer is the four major forces shaping B2B nowadays. Altogether, these four are changing the traditional way of doing businesses on the B2B arena, starting by the fact that the customer's journey starts digitally. And actually, that's when the first force comes into the picture, millennials, who recently are trending as the new B2B buyers and are a segment that is growing at a pace of around 46% yearly, bringing along major impacts over the decision-making process for B2B purchases. As a start, millennials are digitally oriented buyers, and because of that, they prefer to start the process by doing some research on search engines. Once they find that web page that provided the best answer to their query, they will expect being capable of self-servicing themselves, since the moment when they explore your product catalog to the moment when they complete a purchase or simply get a quote. Now, the second major force shaping B2B is mobility, which facilitates on-the-go self-service through items such as mobile apps or kiosks, and also facilitates product and vendor comparison either through review apps, user-generated content, or any other type of customer feedback, provided on a brand social media account. If at this point you're still wondering why mobility is shaping the B2B purchasing process, then it would be good for you to know that more than 40% of researchers use a mobile device during the B2B purchasing process. And 8 out of 10 B2B buyers say they will use a smartphone to access digital content during that search. On the other hand, direct selling is the third force shaping B2B digital commerce. And the main reason why this should be a relevant force when capitalizing on the opportunities that social media has to offer to your industry is because through direct selling, it will be possible for brands to have more control over their branding and positioning all across the digital landscape, and particularly during those initial touch points of content search that are so critical for entering into the buyer's consideration set, and which you just simply can't delegate to intermediaries. Plus, having control over your brand's presence on social media won't only tell you how much money did you generated for a particular product or service, but most importantly, who bought from you and what steps, content, and topics resonate better with their needs. Finally, the fourth force shaping B2B commerce is the shift in procurement processes. Naturally, this is a force that arises as a consequent effect of the rise on millennials as B2B buyers, who will trust more on their own research plus their peers' opinion and advice, and instead will expect to reach out a sales rep mostly to discuss and agree upon contract or negotiation terms. Actually, this is a key fact that circles us back to the quote provided by Jean earlier on the presentation, and which is that 75% of B2B buyers use social media to research vendors. As we move on towards the specifics of the two most relevant behaviors taken by B2B buyers before making a purchasing decision, there are a couple of key facts that we want you to take as main takeaways of today's webinar. First, search will likely be the first touch point between you and your buyer, and will represent 74% of the whole decision-making process. This means that nowadays, content is a key component of your sales force, as it is content the one educating about your products or services' unique benefits to the customer, as well as the one building trust and credibility on your brand. In fact, according to a B2B buyer behavior survey conducted by DemandGen, more than 60% of respondents said they selected vendors who delivered a mix of content that is appropriate for each stage of their buying process. Up next, we have the second takeaway, which is self-serviced online buyers plus an outstanding customer experience will lead to higher revenue for your company. Why? Because these two combined will retain customers more effectively and additionally will incentivize recurring purchases from them. This turns out to be particularly true for those businesses that started on the offline field and now are looking to expand through the online channel. In fact, according to Forrester Research, 47% of B2B executives say their customers who have migrated to online self-service are more likely to become repeat customers. Likewise, an online store that is capable of delivering users a compelling customer experience with an outstanding self-service functionality will increase your company's revenue through higher average order values, as most B2B executives also said that customers who have migrated online for self-service spend more than other customers. Actually, if we wanted to drill down into some B2B customer shopping preferences, we would identify 4 major facts that will illustrate to every online business owner or e-commerce manager why this marriage between self-service and customer experience is so relevant to ensure conversion and create higher revenue, as we were discussing earlier. The first fact is that 93% of online buyers prefer to buy online when they've already made their decision into what to buy in the middle of the B2B buyer's journey. The second fact is that 74% of these buyers believe it is more convenient to carry out an online purchase from a website, while 59% prefer not to interact with a sales rep. Finally, more than half of B2B online buyers prefer to gather information online on their own. So even though we've been mentioning some key points of the B2B customer lifecycle all along this section, especially in relation to customer reach, acquisition, and retention, it is important to actually land these stages on a more high-level frame, which is the B2B customer journey. And that's why we want to show you this illustration of a traditional customer journey adapted to the B2B segment. So similar to what would happen on the B2C customer journey, the process will officially activate as soon as an external stimulus triggers a need for a particular product or service. However, right after that, it comes the first difference between this process on each of the two segments. As for the case of B2Bs, the upcoming stage on the customer journey is more focused on evaluating and validating different solutions to their problems or needs as they self-educate on those rather than coming up with a default consideration set of brands or vendors, as it would likely be the case for the B2C segment. The reason why the order of this stage is different for the B2B decision journey is because usually the decision-making process tends to be a high-involvement process for the consumer, as either the amount to invest in the purchase is considerably higher or the product and service to be purchased is more complex than those goods or services that could be marketed to the B2C segment. Right after the B2B consumer has gone through the evaluation phase of the journey, it will likely have as a result of his research a list of possible vendors that he can reach out to, and thus we might say that this is the moment where the B2B buyer actually has a clear first consideration set of vendors to choose from that he will keep filtering as they enter the fourth phase on the process, or if you prefer to call it, the moment of purchase stage, where buyers submit RFPs, negotiate pricing, get internal approval from influencers or C-level management, and discuss other contractual conditions with the vendors they considered on their first list. After that, the B2B customer journey matches again the B2C journey as buyers pass along a post-purchase stage that in most cases for the B2B arena will be translated into retainer or support contracts and thus will provide a brand experience that may or may not persuade the B2B buyer of becoming into a loyal customer that skips most of the initial phases on the journey as it will directly move to the moment of purchase as soon as the new stimulus triggers the process. Now, up next, I would like to mention some specifics of the evaluation phase of the B2B customer journey. As the illustration shows, the evaluation process can be divided into three major steps, the first of them being peer and colleague consultation from the B2B buyer. This is a step that, depending on the case, might take place either online or offline. If it takes place offline, word of mouth and referrals will likely be the most convenient channels that B2B brands should pay attention to in order to have a chance of getting noticed by possible customers. However, if this takes place online, SEO and partners might be the most convenient channels for being noticed at this point. Likewise, among the most effective types of content promoted during this stage are customer testimonials, webinars, podcasts, or online trainings. Right after this first peer and colleague consultation phase, it comes the product or vendor active research phase, which will mostly take place online, mostly through search engines, blogs, and social media, as buyers are more likely to find through these channels content such as videos, case studies, white papers, product news, infographics, and reviews. As well, channels such as social media facilitates the access to authentic user-generated content that will influence the vetted list of vendors to contact later on in the process. However, it might not be weird that once this research phase is over, the B2B buyer goes back to the colleague consultation just to get the buy-in of those solutions that he believes are more convenient to the company. Also, we should recall that the average B2B buy-in decision involves between 4 to 5 people and around 12 queries prior to brand engagement. Finally, once the B2B buyer has gotten the internal, if we go back to the slide, please. Once the B2B buyer has gotten the internal buy-in, he will likely need to move on with the purchase, and the phase of contacting vendors will take place. As well, this is a phase that, depending on the nature of your offering, meaning if it is a service or a tangible good, might take place either online or offline. In particular, this is a main fact that will take some B2B brands to shoot for lead generation as the main objective to achieve through online channels, or to shoot for online sales through an online store. Now, going back, moving on to the next slide and going back to our B2B customer journey illustration, we will highlight some other stages apart from the evaluation phase in which social media is a relevant channel to distribute content. For example, during the trigger phase, you can use social media to promote videos or contests through social ads. During the vendor outreach phase, you can think of social retargeting just to make sure you're getting as much exposure as possible in front of a client. However, always recall to not overwhelm your audience, especially with irrelevant content. And about not overwhelming your audience, I think by now I covered pretty much all of what I wanted to share with you all. So at this point, I'll hand off to Peter from AddShoppers, who will tell you how to start executing a social strategy and a B2B social campaign.
All right, thank you so much, Maria. So like Maria said, we're going to start talking now about how do we actually take what we've just learned and how do we execute campaigns that are actually going to engage your buyers, engage your prospects over social, and end up in giving you guys more purchases, more sales, more revenue, and all that good stuff. So I'm going to start here by talking about social networks, and we'll break down some of the major social networks and figure out which ones are going to make the most sense, because the last thing you want to do is spend time building out a channel that isn't really going to be all that impactful for your brand. So definitely important to kind of measure twice, cut once here. So obviously there's a lot of different social networks. I mean, if you totaled all of the social networks out worldwide, there'd probably be over 100. People use 2 or 3. There's a couple main ones. So the thing that we want to think about with each different network is, which ones are going to be the right fit for your brand. So, what's the audience on the network? What do people do on the network? Where do they hang out? And then tie this back to your customers. So you're always thinking about who your customers are and where they hang out. If you know that, then it should be pretty simple to figure out which network you should be focusing on. And that's really going to tell you why you should be on a network or why you shouldn't be on the network. So let's look at some of the top networks here and kind of break down how you tend to use them, and this will help you determine if it's something you should be focusing on or not. So LinkedIn is going to be the main one, and obviously we're talking about B2B, so LinkedIn is probably the main one that jumps to your mind first when you think about social networks. Everybody here probably has a LinkedIn. I'd be surprised if you don't. Because just about everybody who's in business, especially B2B businesses, tends to maintain a LinkedIn profile. So what this means is that your customers or your prospects or your partners or anybody that you might have a relationship is probably also on LinkedIn. So, I mean, for just about everybody here, given that you most likely sell B2B, which is why you signed up for this webinar, LinkedIn is probably a network that you should be paying attention to. Unless you have strong reasoning otherwise, you can pretty much assume that LinkedIn is going to be worth spending time on and building out your profile and your following. So yeah, definitely think about LinkedIn. Twitter is going to be a little different. So whereas B2C companies are going to want to build out their Twitter profile and they're going to want to focus on vanity metrics, like how can we get hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. With B2B, it's a little bit. I don't really think you have to worry too much about getting a humongous Twitter following. I think what you need to be doing more so on Twitter is just building out your profile, making it look good, making sure that it looks good, represents your brand well, and you're just sharing relevant content. But really, the bigger win with B2B on Twitter is by being able to develop new relationships and connections. So potential clients, potential partners, potential just about anybody that you would work with, you can always try and reach out to them on Twitter as a way to first, break through the ice and get some kind of a conversation going. So Twitter is I think, value with Twitter when we're talking about B2B. So, go out and follow all of your potential partners, see who follows you back, then, send them a message and see if they want to chat. So one example of how you might want to think about using Twitter for B2B. So Facebook's going to be one where you're going to want to have a profile just to make sure that you have one. If you tend to sell long sales cycles, enterprise type products, Facebook's not really going to be that important. You're probably not going to get a lot of customers posting on your Facebook page like, hey, when are you, releasing that new, industrial cutting machine, right? It's probably not going to happen, but it's always good to have a profile on Facebook because everybody's on Facebook. If you ever want to end up doing Facebook retargeting or any kind of ads on Facebook, you're going to want your profile to look good. So kind of like Twitter, you just want to maintain your Facebook profile and make sure everything looks good. But that's pretty much, it. You can always push out updates if you want to, but probably your efforts are going to be better spent elsewhere. And then lastly is going to be Instagram. So this is one that's really easy to overlook, but what it's really useful for is giving people that behind-the-scenes look at your company. So some of the more candid things that you can share with the world is going to be what you want to focus on Instagram. It basically gives people another view that makes you seem a lot more, human and relatable. Whereas your ads are going to be super polished and make you guys look good. Today, especially the younger buyers, they want to, connect with you. They want to connect with you personally and not just a generic brand message. Instagram is perfect for sharing that. So who are the people, behind the commercial that they see, or who are the people, that are behind the products that they use, and what's the company behind the, or who are the people behind the company they do business with. But sharing candid things like that is really powerful on Instagram, and it helps develop more loyalty, so people just like you more, and then that allows you to maintain your pricing and move from a commodity into more of a bigger brand that people trust more and are stickier and more loyal to. So definitely think about which networks you should be on, choose the ones that make the most sense, and build those out, and don't worry too much about the rest. One quick note of caution: as you're building out your social strategy, if you haven't already, you're definitely going to want to make sure that everything is still integrated with your brand strategy and your brand messaging. So you want to keep your brand as the core of your theme, and then you can have branches out on that, which are each of your social profiles. So you may approach that brand messaging or express it slightly different across each network, but it's still always going to relate back to the main brand messaging that your company puts out. So definitely keep that in mind when you're developing your social profiles and strategy and figuring out what to post to your profiles. So that's a little bit of the how do you choose networks and what should your high-level strategy be with social. Now we're going to go ahead and actually look at real campaigns that real companies are doing, B2B companies that did to start conversations on social. So a couple examples. I've pulled some that are actual clients of ours, and I've also just pulled some that we found that looks like really good examples of engaging customers as a B2B company on social. So the first one here, this is actually an example by Internet Retailer. If anybody here reads Internet Retailer, I hope you do, because it's really kind of the main thing, the main publication when we're talking about e-commerce. But what they do with us is what we call an employee advocacy portal. So if you see here in the screenshot, the campaign that they're running is drive the most traffic and win a $50 Starbucks gift card. Now, the thing to mention with this one is they're not showing this to everybody. This is an internal tool. So what they're doing is they're taking one of their biggest assets, which is their employees and people that work for them, and they're creating this campaign. It's basically gamifying social sharing, and it's a really great way to, any new article that goes out all of their new content to get people sharing it immediately, and this kickstarts the results that they get from every post and every article that they put out, because they already have this team of advocates that they didn't have to go out and recruit, they didn't have to build new relationships with influencers. All they had to do was just leverage what they already have, which is their employees. So this is a really cool way to make your content more engaged and kickstart everything so that when people who don't work there come and see it, it already has a lot of social proof because it's already been shared 5, 10, 20, 50 times. So that's the employee advocacy portal concept, so definitely a cool one to think about. Next up is going to be involving partners. So social media is a really good way to develop and build relationships with any partners that you have, especially for B2B. Partners, many people here, your partners may be your biggest source of sales and revenue and clients or customers. So definitely you want to be using social to help that initiative as well. So a couple things that you can do on social to build or develop your relationship with partners. Number one is just to jump in and start sharing out their stuff. So retweet their content on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn. Give value first before you ask for anything in return. So then once you've started sharing their stuff and they've recognized that you're just really interested in sharing out without necessarily asking for anything in return, it's actually okay to ask for help promoting your content. So they've seen that you're sharing their content, especially if you produce something that's really relevant to their audience. Just shoot it over to them and say, in an email, hey, we just put out this blog post on XYZ. I think your audience would really like it. Can you share it out? So something like that is really good for getting your content in front of potential customers that meet your ideal client profile, because your partners should have that. And that's another way to get help promoting your content. And then lastly would be to invite your partners to events and things like that. So what we're doing, the webinar that you're on right now, is an example of partners working together, and everybody's invested, and so every party is going to share it out via social, email it to their list, and all that good stuff. So once you start doing co-marketing events together, and that's a really good way. It gives you something to share about on social, and it's going to be a no-brainer, for them to share it on social because they're invested just as much as you are. So that's a great way to involve partners on social media. A couple of tools that you may find useful. These are things that we use here internally at AddShoppers, and we find them really useful and helpful for staying on top of our social presence so that we can make the most of everything that happens. So first is going to be Slack. So we use plugins like Notify and other plugins that integrate with Slack, and anytime someone tweets about us or posts about us, or tags us, it notifies us instantly in real time, and then we can jump in, and respond or reach out or whatever, we need to do, and this helps us, basically prevent things from slipping through the cracks so that we're able to stay on top of things. If a potential customer or potential client, shares out something or tags us, we can respond immediately, in real time, which improves the likelihood that they'll respond back to you. So you're definitely going to want to think about encouraging conversations. So the thing that we're looking at right here on the screen is an example of a social contest. So the idea here is if we incentivize customers or clients or partners to share out, they're going to share out a lot more, and we've done this time and time again, and it works just about every time. So if you can offer some kind of a contest or giveaway that's built around social sharing where in this example, if you look at the screenshot, 1 like equals a $1 donation plus a coupon. So it's basically every time you share or every time you like, then it means they donate an additional $1. So it's incentivizing you to share more. So this is an example of ways that you can get people to share out more, whether it's contents, clients, potential clients, or customers. And these are also great ways to start conversations. So look at all the people that share it out, and reach out to the people that look like ones that are good prospects for you. And this is an example, actually, of how you do just that. So this is actually pulled from our dashboard here at AddShoppers. There's probably other tools that can generate reports, like this, but obviously, since this is our own tool, this is the example I'm using. So what this is this is a list of everybody that shared out a page or a product or something on your site. And what this tells you, obviously, is people that are at least at some level engaged. So you're going to want to look through this list and look through all these people. And if you click in, you can go check out their Twitter profile or Facebook page and see if they look like somebody that you guys should be talking to. And if so, you already know who they are, so just reach out and see if you can get in touch with them. So it's going to be a way that you can basically tie the loop from just sharing out stuff and doing campaigns like share to win, social contests, things like that, to actually bringing that back to the business development side, where you're going to reach out and you can actually see these are all the people that are interested. Let's reach out. So hope that makes sense for everybody. And now what I'll pull up is actually some live examples of good B2B customers. So going back to internet retailer, so we looked at how they used the employee advocacy portal earlier. Now let's look at some of the results that they've seen. So you'll see here that 86% of all of their social traffic comes from Twitter. So what they can do now is they can go back to that employee advocacy portal, and now they know what to tell people. Share this out on Twitter. Make sure you share it on Twitter, because that's where most of the traffic comes from. And then they can also make sure that they're building out their Twitter presence, and they're making sure that all their articles look good on Twitter. So just knowing where the traffic is coming from, this allows you to further segment out your audience and segment out your efforts, so that you can forget what isn't really working. So for example, you looked at only 1% of traffic comes from Google+, so probably not something that you even need to worry about. That frees up time so that they can spend more effort on things that really matter, like Twitter, for example. So I Buy Office Supply is another client of ours, and they sell, believe it or not, office supplies. So here's what their source report looks like using our platform. So theirs is much more spread out. Facebook and Twitter are really the two that move the needle for them. So now they know, knowing these analytics, these are the platforms that they should focus on. The other two don't really, the other networks, I should say, don't really matter quite as much. Bindertek is another client of ours that does luxury binders, essentially, and a couple interesting tidbits from their reporting. The first is that they see about a 5 times ROI from social sharing, so it's definitely a channel that you may not necessarily think that social sharing can be all that effective for a B2B company, but for them it definitely is, and for most of our B2B clients, they see something similar. Now, the other interesting fact with Bindertek is, look at the popularity of clip sources for them. Theirs is much more spread out evenly across Pinterest, Twitter, and Facebook. So now they have 3 networks that they can really focus on, and the others that don't really matter so much. So you'll see here that really the high-level learning here is that none of these clients necessarily would have been able to predict what would have worked well, and they're all different. We saw internet retailer, it was basically all Twitter. The last example, I Buy Office Supply, that we just looked at, theirs is basically just Facebook and Twitter, and then Bindertek is Pinterest, Twitter, and Facebook. So you really have to get these analytics in place, because you're not going to be able to predict what you'll see. And then once you have these analytics, obviously, like I mentioned, the next step is just to optimize for whichever networks come up at the top. So Iron Planet is a company that does auctions for used heavy equipment. So we found their YouTube page and we thought it looked really interesting. So what they do is they showcase all of their upcoming auctions and post them up on YouTube, and they make videos, and they get lots of views and engagement. So this is a big channel for them. So you'll see they have a little over 370,000 YouTube views, which may not sound like a lot if you're talking about the latest Justin Bieber music video, but for B2B and things like heavy equipment, 370,000 YouTube views is a lot, and I'm guessing those are highly targeted views because not just anyone is going to watch a video on a heavy equipment option unless they're really interested. So YouTube, it's one we haven't even talked about yet, but it can really be powerful as seen here. So think about, if YouTube made sense for your brand. So Poppin is another company, kind of an office supply company with really cool branded, products, lots of colors. I think you can get just about any product in any color. So kind of a cool company there. We found their Instagram page and we thought it looked really cool. They have over 30,000 followers on Instagram. And they've only posted about 1,000 times, so that's a lot of followers. They get really high engagement. Just to give you guys a really high-level stat, the average Instagram post gets something like 50 times more engagement than one single Facebook post. So Instagram, if it's something that you can leverage, you should definitely think about doing that. They also have a cool Twitter page, but little smaller with only 8,000 followers. So definitely check out their Instagram page or their profile. Just check it out, see what they're doing, see if there's anything you can learn from them. And then last up, my last example here is going to be Grainger. So most of you guys have probably heard of Grainger. They're obviously pretty big, but again, they're one that's used Instagram pretty well. So they do these what they call everyday hero videos, and it's basically showcasing their clients or their customers, and they'll go out and shoot really cool videos and show you the stories behind the people that use their products, and then they share those out on social, Instagram. I think they post them to YouTube too, and they get lots of engagement. So that's a really cool campaign, that they run on social. So think about, if there's a way that you can showcase, some of your most successful customers, get those videos, if it's a video or if it's just a case study, and share those out because, if nothing else, the people that are featured are definitely going to share those out. So that's pretty much it as far as the example campaigns that we're going to look at. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over, and we're going to talk about mobile.
Thanks, Peter. Really very, very interesting insights on just on sharing and how to figure out what are going to be your most effective channels. And when you see the creativity involved and the sleuthing involved, mobile is obviously going to be very vital in any kind of social sharing context. So taking a little bit deeper look at mobile and B2B, why do B2Bs need to focus on mobile? And the first big answer there is that already about 2/3 of B2B businesses do have some kind of mobile presence, a website or an app, and nearly 3/4 will continue to come back to the site if it is a mobile-friendly site, and 2/3 will make purchases if the site is mobile-friendly. But looking at the flip side, what if your site is not mobile-friendly? So moving on to the next slide is that more than half of users are going to abandon your site pretty quickly if it's not mobile-friendly. And in fact, probably about half are going to be very frustrated and even develop sort of a tainted view of your brand if the mobile experience is not a good one. Because at this point in time it appears as though your business is either not up to snuff or not caring about an individual's business if the mobile experience is not tailored to them. And it's not just users that are going to look down upon your site being non-mobile friendly. If we go on to the next slide, Google last year, during what many of you may have heard of as Mobile-geddon, integrated into their algorithm attributes that have to do with mobile friendliness. And as a result, if your site is not up to snuff when it comes to mobile, in one study your search results would drop an average of 27 spots. And sessions decrease by about 1/3, bounce rates increase significantly. So it's not just the users but the search engines as well. And there are a number of things you can do to improve your B2B mobile experience, starting with mobile optimized design. And there are a lot of gradations of a site being mobile friendly. Mobile friendly as a term is really the bare minimum that you need to do to get by the Google algorithm. But you want to create a rich user experience that's more fully optimized, whether it's a responsive site that adjusts for the different size devices you're using, or more friendly buttons, or a more rich guided experience. A mobile optimized design is very important, if not a mobile first design in the early stages. Mobile faceted search is a more nuanced feature that can improve the experience. Faceted search on the web is very easy to accommodate, but is a lot trickier on mobile. In order to create faceted search, you have to use things like the four corners of the screen, or modal overlays, or watermarks. So you have to get a little creative to create that experience, but it is going to make it a much more optimized experience for your users. Perhaps the most important is a streamlined purchase path. You don't want to add any extra steps or any kind of obstructions to getting to shopping cart. And of course, personalization, long a trademark of the B2C experience. You want to make sure that your B2B user has their needs, their interests, and even their location being taken into account during their experience on your mobile site. Of course, self-service, as Maria pointed out at the outset, is very vital to the mobile B2B experience, and as is omni-channel, whether it's through automated pricing, optimization, personalized recommendations. All of these are different ways that you can greatly improve the B2B mobile experience. So showing a few examples of those that have done this really effectively. Blake Envelopes, they create a very intuitive guided selling experience, walking you through a number of product attributes, making it very easy for you to request samples, to log into your account and place orders. They really are an exemplar of how to do the mobile B2B experience very effectively. Another very interesting case study is Uline, and you wouldn't think that there would be that much interest in different boxes, but you can very easily choose your dimensions, and then when you get the results returned, instead of trying to cross-sell or upsell different types of products, it's different dimensions. How often when you go to move, for example, you get boxes of one dimension, you realize you need a whole lot of different shapes and sizes, so there's a pretty clever way to cross-sell and upsell. And in the third screen, you can see that they accommodate bulk ordering, which is long been a B2B feature that we addressed a little bit earlier. So Uline does a great job of creating a very mobile-friendly user. Another example, and the next slide is ADI. ADI very involved in security, and their reps in the field are on the move very quickly. And one of the things they implemented was having signing in with Touch ID or Voice ID, which made it so much easier for their reps, and their engagement increased tremendously using the app as soon as they instigated this very easy to log in feature. Yet another example to sort of give them a reprise. Of course, Grainger, long thought of as a leader in the B2B space. A couple simple things that they do here that really stand out, especially in the second image, where they have image thumbnails for each of their high-level categories. And that's subtle, but you don't see it very much, and so it really stands out. In the third image, you can see that they enable filters and sorts for the searching, and they do it very well with an easy vertical scroller for sorting by high to low, brands, etc. So Grainger, again, across the board, creating a great experience for their users in B2B. And then a final example, Screwfix, a real easy to use iconography, but what really stands out here is in B2B, just like B2C users, another of the ways these two have begun to mesh. B2B buyers love sales. They love next day delivery and shipping, And so by treating the B2B customer increasingly with some of the B2B thrill features that you might get, the B2B experience becomes much more engaging and much more effective. So that covers some of the examples just to show high level how you can create a great engaging B2B mobile experience. And perhaps a final thought on this is I'm going to hand it over to Peter. We talked about Mobilegeddon last year, and something that AddShoppers has really taken the lead on is pop-up doomsday. So for those of you who are not familiar with this, it's all yours, Peter.
Thanks, Gene. Yeah, so like Gene said, we are kind of spearheading the movement on pop-up doomsday. If you haven't heard, you've been living under a rock somewhere. Google announced via their webmaster blog about 6 weeks ago that in January of 2017 they are going to start penalizing any website that has modal pop-ups, or in their words, interstitials that show up immediately as soon as the page loads on a mobile device. So these are things like, mobile overlays. If you're running an immediate pop-up that says, enter your email to get $10 off, anything like that is going to start to be penalized in the search results. So the solution to that is something that we've thought a lot about, and we're going to release an update to our platform called the Promo Portal that's going to incorporate the solution. So if you want to learn more about either the upcoming Google algorithm change, again, January 27 in 2017, or about the solution, just go to popupdoomsday.com and you can learn all about that.
Okay, so sorry, Peter. Now, just a quick reminder here to the audience that you can just download these 2 free resources that Commerce Plan created especially for this audience, a social media plan template that you can use to fasten the planning phase of your social strategy, and a Google Analytics social dashboard that you can import directly into your Google Analytics account. You'll see the key metrics of social from that dashboard, as well as some guidelines into additional reports, such as multi-funnel channel reports or users flow reports. So yeah, just take that into consideration, go to the chat window and download the one you prefer the most.
All right, so that pretty much concludes the webinar. Any questions that you guys have? Now is the time to get those in while we still have a couple of minutes left and everyone on the line. Couple things while we're letting the questions come in. You'll see the contact information for everybody that presented today be included there on the left, and a little bit more about each company that we come from under our contact information. So if you want to learn more about any of our companies, what we do, just go to the websites listed. And now we'll go ahead and Katie will field the questions that we have.
Great, thanks, Peter. So one of the first questions that we had was how long does it take usually to implement a social strategy and get that up and running? So one of the things I know that we've done here at AddShoppers pretty well is that usually within talking through with clients, deciding on what strategy they want to do, we can usually implement things in a 2-week to 1-month time period, which is pretty good, I would think, for a lot of things like going forward with social strategy. But we have a program that we are doing called Accelerate, and this is really 10 marketing campaigns, all focused on the on-site experience. Another layer of that is that social that we discussed here, and then using that and implementing it within a 15-day window and getting you guys a 10-time ROI on that. So that's something that we've seen work really well. Another question that we have, and I'll probably direct this at Peter, is it worth developing a mobile app? I know we talked about mobile being one of the strong points that you really need to consider when looking at strategies for B2B.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good question. I think with B2B, it actually depends. I think there's a lot of cases where it can make a lot of sense to develop a mobile app, especially if there's something that people tend to order over and over again, or maybe there's it's a little bit more technical, to actually order something. So, maybe if you sell some kind of product, maybe it's shipping boxes or something like that, where you can develop an app that helps you, figure out exactly the box that you need by making it super simple to enter in the 3 dimensions, and then we'll calculate all the potential boxes, and then obviously once you figure out the box that you need, you can order it from within the app. So anything where you can really provide value and help it become really super simple to figure out exactly what you need with the app, and then order it in the same app. I think that makes a lot of sense. For B2B, if you're just going to basically recreate your store in an app, I don't think it's necessarily all that important or worth doing. But if you can really make it, part of your, the experience in actually, selecting a product or choosing a product or figuring out what you need, then I think it makes a lot of sense to develop a mobile app, and that's, even a, competitive advantage if you can have, more people using your app. You guys have any input on that?
I think those are great insights, Peter, and a lot of it may come down to budget, because to have an effective mobile app it can be costly, but as you said, it's very well worth it and can have significant ROI if you make the customer journey a whole lot easier to get to the finish line. And if it's a high degree of complexity, it makes a whole lot of sense. But if it's not, if you sell an apparel line online, I'm using that as an example, and you're recreating the experience, then more of a mobile optimized or high-level responsive design, where you basically simulate a mobile app through responsive, gives a great mobile experience. So you have to weigh a number of factors, but budget's a big one.
And also something that I'd like to add as well as a personal comment, take into consideration that even though mobile is important not only at the moment of purchase, but on different stages across the buyer's journey, it is important to, if you're thinking about developing an app, to make it highly contextually relevant, right? So you don't want it to be necessarily exact copy of what you have on your website, because people, while using mobile, want to go straight to the point. They want to solve an immediate need or find a particular piece of content rather than just browsing all across your website just to fulfill their objective. So that is the only comment I will add. It is important to be on mobile. It will definitely be worth it to build an app, but just make sure it is contextually relevant to your user.
Great. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jean. Thank you, everyone, for joining. That's all the time we have for today. We'll be posting this and sending it out tomorrow as well, so if there's any part that you wanted to go back and go over, we'll be posting that out tomorrow.
Okay, thank you all for being here and your attention.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a nice day.